Is walking 10k steps a day necessary, or is it a waste of time? Let's find out. Lots of people struggle to hit 10,000 steps, and that's because it is a lot and it takes a lot of time. But if people are trying to improve their fitness, or they're trying to lose weight, or they're trying to improve one of their health metrics, then the question they'll often ask is, are the 10k steps necessary for me to be able to do this stuff? As an osteopath, I treat patients of all different fitness levels. Some people that are just trying to get off the couch, they spend all day sat behind a desk at work, go home on the bus or the train, walk a few steps into the house, sit back down. And for people like that, it's a completely different health landscape to somebody who is got an active job on their feet, or they're already really engaged, in a sport or activity level. So this kind of one size fits all stuff like 10k steps a day, yes, there's some positives to it, because if you're trying to treat the masses, then you do need these just rules in place for people to stick to. But as an osteopath, I treat people one-to-one and they get a bespoke level of care. So if you do have a health practitioner who you're working with, then they should be able to do a little bit better than just give you the standard 10k steps and that's it. They should be able to work with you one-to-one and start to think about, within the context of your life, what's the appropriate amount of steps or activity that you should be taking. In terms of the benefits of walking, steps can include running, but let's just talk about walking for a second. Then, there are loads for the elderly population. Bone mineral density of actually impacting the ground is really good for their bone health through the lower limbs and through the back. And then you've got all the mental health benefits of exercise because it does clear the head. You've obviously got the cardiorespiratory benefits of exercise too. For some people, there's even a kind of socializing element to it. So yes, walking is really, really good for you in general. No one is disputing that. When you're trying to consider your daily steps, I've got a nice little framework, and it is just like a common sense framework to stick to. I'm a big believer in common sense. We don't need do X and Y for everybody. It's just like, let's look at you, let's think about this logically, and then let's work out something that's, makes sense. So here's the framework. So number one, ask yourself what is currently normal, whether you've got a pedometer on your phone or whether you're doing it intuitively. What's normal for you? Are you active? Are you sedentary? What's your pedometer saying? Let's get that bit of information first. Secondly is, do you do other weight-bearing exercise? Do you do other cardiovascular exercise? What's outside of the steps you take? What is your normal fitness routine, and how many active minutes are you getting, irregardless of what your steps are? And thirdly, what are your goals? It's very easy to say people should do this stuff, but are you already fit and you're just trying to maintain? Are you really unfit and you're trying to get fit? What does fitness look like for you? Fitness is, to be able to do something, fit for purpose. So what's it all about for you? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to get your blood pressure down? Are you pre-diabetic? Are you just feeling like crap and want to, perk up a bit? What's the goal? That's a really important question to be asking for us to then start to work out how many steps is going to be important to intervene with. So once we've got that information, write it down if you want. Most people, if I tell them to do that, probably aren't going to do it. But let's say you've written it down. You know how many steps you're doing, you know what your general activity level is, and you know what your goals are. Then we can start to put something together. So I've got a couple of example scenarios here. And like I said, this is not a mathematical equation. This is a common sense approach. So some examples of how this might look are as follows. If you're currently doing less than 3,000 steps a day and you haven't got an active lifestyle outside of those 3,000 steps, then a 10k step target is a great target for you. Of course it is, because that's going to be the difference between doing basically no cardiovascular exercise, no movement through your limbs. You are overly sedentary and you need to get moving, you need to get weight bearing, you need to get that heart pumping. Then absolutely 10k is a really good target. If it seems like too far away, then you can start small, because doubling that to 6 is going to make some kind of significant difference. Picking that up a bit to 8 and then on to 10 by the time you go from 3 to 10, if you're averaging that on a daily basis, you are going to feel better, look better, your health markers are going to improve, and I would 100% say that 10K is the goal for you. So let's say you're someone that's walking 8K steps a day, but outside of the 8K steps, you're having a lot of other active minutes. You're, potentially swimming, weightlifting, doing whatever. Would it be good advice to say to you, you need to up from 8K to 10K? If your health is good and you're happy and you're fit, you're not overweight, then absolutely not. If you're doing all of the right stuff and you're only walking 8K steps a day and you're healthy and your goal is to just proceed and continue in that way, I would not be worried about trying to get that 8 to a 10 if you were my patient. So the last example is you are someone who one day might walk 15K steps on a regular, semi-regular weekly basis. And then another day you're down at like 3 or 4. And then another day you're really busy and another day you're low. Is that someone who we need to be saying, oh no, every single day you need to be doing 10K steps? So if we think about how much they're doing, averagely, maybe they're just below 10, but sometimes it's much higher, sometimes it's much lower. They're doing other forms of exercise on top of the walking that they do. Then lastly, it's what are the goals? If that person who's fluctuating up and down is actually really stiff and not feeling particularly healthy, and the days that they do a lot, maybe they're overeating on those other days or something like that, or they're stressed and that's what's keeping them having to walk so much, then yeah, maybe on the more sedentary days, taking a walk is going to be a benefit, and it's a place that we could just start to find a little bit of, calmer exercise. However, that person could look completely different. They could be an athlete and maybe they're exercising really hard on some days and then optimizing for rest and recovery on the others. So again, not to repeat myself, but the context of the patient is everything. We want to be considering what's right for you, and if you're optimizing for rest and recovery because you're performing at an athletic level, then there's no point intervening on those rest and recovery days with walks that you don't need to do. You can absolutely walk less than 10K steps, in my opinion, and be healthy. However, if you've just got a few days which really spike for whatever reason, but ordinarily it's too low, then it's going to be something that we would consider trying to get up if your goal is to improve a health marker, to lose some weight, or just to generally feel better. Personally, I'm probably somewhere around the second one. I definitely don't walk 10K steps every day, and I don't worry on the days that I don't. I'm confident in the fact that my health markers are good, I don't have high blood pressure, I'm not pre-diabetic, I'm not overweight, and I don't need to try and include more exercise in my life than I currently have. So yeah, even though I'm generally probably dropping underneath the 10, some days going a bit over it for sure, but generally speaking just slightly under it, I'm not worried and I'm not fussed about that, and I don't think you should be either. I hope this shed some light on some things. If you've got any questions about 10K steps, pop them in the comments.